It's July 18th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with heavy downpours in the Seoul metropolitan area. Torrential downpours are pounding South Korea's capital city and the northern part of Gyeonggi-do province. The government has activated Level 2 emergency operation of the disaster response headquarters as of 7:50 a.m. this morning. South Korea's Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company has been chosen as a preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power units in the Czech Republic that are worth over $17 billion. It's the first time in 15 years that South Korea has secured an overseas nuclear power plant construction project. U.S. stocks were mixed on Wednesday, with the Nasdaq plunging as the tech firms faced pressure over worries about U.S. export curbs on China and Donald Trump's stance on Taiwan. The Dow Jones Industrial Average Dow closed at yet another record high. As the monsoon season sweeps the country, the rain has now moved up to the Seoul metropolitan area and Gyeonggi-do province. Seoul City is forecast to see up to 150 millimeters of rain until Friday. Our Kim Jung-sil is on the line for more. Jung-sil, tell us the latest.
Tommy, heavy rain has been falling here in Seoul since last night, and more is expected to fall throughout the week. As you said, the rain is showing trend of moving northward from the southern Gyeongsang and central Chungcheong regions that saw heavy rain last week. Now, more on the rain in the capital. As of 7:20 a.m. this morning, the Korea Meteorological Administration has raised the heavy warning advisory to a heavy rain warning that is a higher level across Seoul and Seoul. That is, and just half an hour ago, the KMA announced a heavy rain warning for Incheon, most of Gyeonggi-do province, northern Gangwon-do province, and northern Chungcheongnam-do province. The KMA said 30 to 60 millimeters per hour of rain is being detected in these regions, and the Korea Forest Service has raised the alert level for landslides in these regions to the highest level as well. The government's Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures headquarters has entered level 2 over the weather as well. And that is the second highest level out of the level 3. A heavy rain advisory has been issued for the rest of the Gyeonggi-do, Gangwon-do, and Chungcheongnam-do provinces, as well as southern Jeollabuk-do province. Weather officials also forecast that the central region, including Gangwon-do province and mountainous areas, will see up to 70 millimeters per hour of very heavy rain. The far southern Jeolla regions will see 20 to 30 millimeters of rain throughout the afternoon. The KMA called for extra precautions due to the pouring rain in already soaked regions.
Right. Anyone near streams or rivers must steer clear of them. And Jung-sil, tell us what's going on near the Gunnam and near the inter-Korean border.
Absolutely. Heavy rain has poured throughout the night near the Gunnam Dam in the border county of Yeoncheon-gun, Gyeonggi-do province. As of this morning, the water level of the Gunnam Dam is 31.92 meters, just 8 meters short of limit level of 40 meters. The Situation Center at the Gunnam Dam has opened 12 of its 13 floodgates to increase water discharge as the water level rises. The center has been monitoring the dam's water level overnight on an emergency basis, and the water level at the Gunnam Dam is especially important due to a tragic incident that occurred back in 2009. North Korea opened the floodgates of its Hwanggang Dam without prior warning, killing 6 people in the south who were camping near the river. North Korea's Hwanggang Dam and the South Korea's Gunnam Dam both are connected by the Imjingang River. There have been recurring signs of North Korea releasing water from its border dam early this morning. The Environment Ministry said it let the local governments and the military know that there have been signs of North Korea discharging water from the Hwanggang Dam based on high-resolution satellite imagery at 3 a.m. in the border area. It's possible that Pyongyang is releasing water without giving Seoul prior notice. That's all I have for now, but I'll give you more updates in the later newscast. Back to you, Tammy.
All right, that was our Kim Jung-sil reporting live. Moving on, South Korea looks close to inching a deal with the Czech Republic to build 2 nuclear power units in the Central European country, as a consortium led by KHNP was selected as the preferred candidate for the project. Our Oh Seung has the details.
South Korea's state-run power giant has been named the preferred bidder to build at least 2 nuclear plants in the Czech Republic, marking a major feat for the country's budding export industry and President Yoon Suk-yeol's sales diplomacy. Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala said Wednesday that a South Korean consortium led by Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power won the hotly contested tender to build reactors at the Dukovany power plant, beating France's EDF in all criteria assessed. Fiala said 2 more reactors could be built at the Temelin plant. South Korea's presidential office expressed gratitude for Prague's decision in a briefing Wednesday evening.
This makes KHNP the preferred bidder for the construction of 2 Dukovany nuclear reactors, and if the Czech government decides to proceed with the construction of 2 Temelin reactors, KHNP will also be the preferred bidder. This comes 15 years after winning the country's bid to build the UAE's Barakah nuclear power plant in 2009, and it will be the foundation for our exports to Europe, the origin of commercial reactors.
The 2 new 1,200 megawatt units will cost about $8.6 billion each, according to the Czech government, with the final deal signed by March next year. Seoul attributed the success to the solid trust between the two sides, built over 34 years of diplomatic relations, and public-private cooperation between businesses, industry workers, government officials and citizens involved in Team Korea's bid, offering low construction costs, top safety and technological standards, to deliver completion on time within budget, as shown by the Barakah nuclear project in the United Arab Emirates. Since his inauguration in 2022, President Yoon Suk-yeol has actively promoted South Korea's nuclear power exports, holding more than 150 summits with 100 leaders of government. His office noted that he'd met the Czech Prime Minister on 3 occasions, including in Washington, D.C. last week, and even sent a letter presenting a vision for bilateral cooperation in nuclear energy. The Czech Republic aims to phase out coal by 2033 and increase its energy security by expanding nuclear power production. KHNP's APR 1000 reactor can produce around 1.2 times the annual power consumption in Prague, according to Seoul's Trade Ministry. A presidential official said Seoul hopes that securing its bid to work on the Czech Republic's plants will lead to more opportunities in the European market, boosting investment and employment in South Korea's nuclear power ecosystem. Usyang, Arirang News.
As training hospitals across the country have begun processing the resignation of trainee doctors who walked out in February, around 10,000 junior doctors will have left the hospitals. The government now plans to receive applications from hospitals to fill the shortage of trainee doctors, with recruitment scheduled for the second half of the year. Our Lee Seung-ja zooms in.
This past Monday was the deadline for trainee doctors to respond to whether or not they'll return to work after months of collective action in response to the government's medical school admissions quota hike. Training hospitals were told to process the resignations of junior doctors who refuse to return or don't respond by Monday's deadline. According to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, the resignation rate of trainee doctors at 211 training hospitals nationwide stood at 12.4% as of Tuesday. As of the same day, the resignation rate at the so-called Big Five hospitals in Seoul was even higher at 38.1%. Those numbers are set to jump significantly throughout the week as resignations continue to be processed. Once all the resignations are processed, it's expected that some 10,000 junior doctors will have officially quit, leaving a massive vacuum in the country's medical system. To fill the shortage of doctors due to the mass resignations, the government will communicate with hospitals to determine recruitment needs for the second half of the year. The government will begin accepting applications next Monday, with the number of new hires to be announced in September. While the government hopes to persuade the trainee doctors who have quit to return through the second half of recruitment, representatives at the Korean Intern Resident Association aren't looking to cooperate, instead warning of legal action against hospital directors for processing resignations. Medical professors are also slamming the training hospitals, arguing that they should not unilaterally decide on the processing of the resignation, but should have gone through sufficient discussion with the trainee doctors. The government on Thursday will hold a meeting chaired by Second Vice Health Minister Bang Min-soo, and is expected to announce the number of vacancies at each hospital while continuing with its plans for recruitment for the second half of the year. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Republican National Convention is in full swing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Donald Trump is pushing through his schedule with a bandage on his ear. Let's turn to VOA correspondent Chris Keskoe for more. Welcome back, Chris.
Good to be with you.
So Trump is out in the field carrying out his schedule as planned at the RNC. Give us the latest, and what can we look forward to on the final day on Thursday?
Right, Republicans have focused on Democratic President Joe Biden's handling of the ongoing crises in Europe and the Middle East. Former Trump administration officials have taken the stage to outline what foreign policy would look like in a second Trump term. And Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is expected to accept the party's nomination for vice president. Despite his celebrity after publishing his memoir called The Hillbilly Elegy, the 39-year-old Vance is a relative unknown to many of the party officials here in Milwaukee, and even to many of the top Republicans. He'll get the chance to address the national audience in just a couple of hours. Expect to hear a speech that includes his family, his wife Usha, their 3 children, and his endorsement of Trump's policies, which on some issues he's to the right of Donald Trump, so there really is no ideological balance on the ticket. They're both pretty right-wing on a lot of positions, including abortion. Vance beat out North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum and Senator Marco Rubio of Florida to be Trump's running mate. He has developed a strong rapport with the former president over the years, even after he was a strong critic of him before he got elected to the Senate. They speak on the phone regularly, and Trump has even complimented Vance's beard, saying he looks like a young Abraham Lincoln. Now, as for Trump, he will officially accept the GOP nomination Thursday night, and he has said that his speech will seek to unify the country, and he had changed it from its more harsh tone that he was planning to give.
Right, Chris, and it's been 4 days since the assassination attempt on Trump last Saturday. How are people in the U.S. reacting to the recent assassination attempt?
Right, delegates and spectators in Milwaukee have started sporting bulky ear bandages to copy Donald Trump and show their support for him. He made waves on Monday when he appeared at the RNC with the bandage over his right ear. As you know, 2 days earlier, he survived an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania that left him mostly unharmed, but he has that gash to his ear caused by the near-miss bullet. Now, minutes after the shooting, Chinese e-commerce sites were selling T-shirts of Trump raising his fist moments after the shots were fired. But by Tuesday, almost all the listings had been removed, and while it's unclear they were taken down, a business school professor, Jinmin Wang, said the shooting was politically sensitive and may have prompted action by Chinese authorities who routinely censor these sorts of things.
Well, then you have to tell us who's actually ahead in the latest polls. I mean, is there any dramatic change in the numbers after the assassination attempt on Trump?
Not really. Trump is leading in 7 battleground states, 6 of which President Biden won in 2020. Now, the positive news for Democrats in this Times YouGov poll is the performance of their Senate candidates in these same battleground states. There are Senate races in Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin this year. In each state, a Democrat holds the seat now. 2 are open races, and 3 are seats being defended by incumbent Democrats. And in each state, the Democratic candidate is running ahead of Biden while leading their Republican opponent by a margin of at least 7 points.
So no dramatic change in the latest polls on Biden or Trump. Now, are calls on Biden to drop out of the race still growing? I mean, is the move to oust Biden dying out now?
It had calmed down for a few days, but it's not dying out. And we should tell you that President Biden, just in the last hour or two, has been positive for COVID, and he's reporting mild symptoms. So he's headed back to Delaware to rest and recuperate for a few days. But this could not come at a worse time for Biden. Nearly 2/3 of Democrats say he should withdraw from the presidential race and let his party nominate a different candidate, according to a new poll, which sharply undercuts his post-debate claim that average Democrats are still with him, even if some big names are turning on him. Well, today, another big name turned on him, Representative Adam Schiff from California, who is running for the Senate in that state against former Major League Baseball player Steve Garvey. He is the latest to call on Biden to step down. And so far, 21 Democratic lawmakers have called on Biden to step down, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and outside the realm of politics, George Clooney, who had hosted a fundraiser for Biden 3.5 weeks ago, wrote an op-ed to the New York Times that was published last Thursday calling for him to step down.
So Biden still insisting to stick to his plans and finish the race. But Chris, what would happen if he, changes his mind?
Well, it's important to note that this has to be Biden's choice. He has to make the choice, and at that point, he would release the delegates that he's won so far in the primary process. Now, Elaine Camargue from the Brookings Institution is a former member of the DNC Rules Committee. She said candidates who would want to run would visit states and visit state delegations. They'd pay a lot of attention to big state delegations like California, New York, and Texas, and they would probably engage in a debate, going through what is sort of a mini primary process before the Democratic National Convention next month. Now, if there's only one person and Joe Biden got out and said, I endorse my vice president, for example, Kamala Harris, and no one challenged her, well, then there would not be a contested convention. So it really would simplify the process if the Democrats, should they, decide to move, should Biden decide to get out of the race, it would be a much simpler process if they settled on one person. And a lot of people in the Democratic Party think it just makes the most sense to settle on the vice president, Kamala Harris, if Biden decides to drop out. But that's a big if, because he said that he intends to stay in the race. But, we'll have to see how it plays out over the next couple of days. He's going to be off the campaign trail recuperating from COVID.
Definitely. That is a big if, but let's see how he pushes through with being infected with COVID-19. Chris, thanks for your report today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
A mixed day on Wall Street on Wednesday as the tech-heavy Nasdaq plunged nearly 3%, while the Dow Jones hit another record high. With major semiconductor stocks seeing massive sell-offs, the Nasdaq fell 2.77% or 512.41 points to record its largest single-day drop in 19 months. AI semiconductor giant Nvidia fell more than 6%, while AMD dropped more than 10% on the day. The sell-offs come amid reports that the U.S. is considering strengthening semiconductor export regulations against China, heightening investor concerns. Now, on the other hand, the Dow Jones jumped more than 243 points, or 0.59%, to close Wednesday's trading session at 41,198.08. This marks the first time the index has surpassed the 41,000 mark. As the Paris Olympics countdown begins, all eyes are fixed on South Korea's dominant archery team, given their strong presence in the sport. Our Ian He brings more.
At the heart of Paris lies the sprawling green lawns of Esplanade des Invalides. This is where South Korean archers will be aiming for gold at this year's Paris Olympics. Kim Woo-jin, Kim Jae-deok, and Lee Woo-seok in the men's recurve, and Im Si-hyun, Chun Hoon-young, and Nam Soo-hyun in the women's recurve, who will be making their Olympic debuts.
For us, this is our first Olympics, and we've put in extra effort to get good results. We've worked diligently, hoping that our efforts can lead to a successful outcome.
The South Korean archery team has created an unparalleled legacy by clinching at least one gold at every Summer Olympics since 1984. After winning 4 gold medals at the Tokyo Olympics out of the 5 events, Team Korea's goal this time is to secure at least 3. The spotlight is on the women's team competition, striving for their 10th consecutive gold medal. One thing that makes South Korean archery so strong is known to be their thorough training regimes, which incorporate advanced techniques and training with robots. Competing against these emotionally neutral robots is to strengthen the athlete's psychological resilience. The archers also trained in simulated settings, such as football stadiums with large crowds and under different weather conditions. Now it's almost time for their hard work to pay off. and they'll have the backing of their nation.
To our athletes, instead of dwelling too much on the medals, I believe valuing the process and hard work is more important. I hope you give your all and enjoy the journey. Go Team South Korea!
I hope all the athletes' hard work pays off. Good luck.
With their exceptional skill and unwavering support from their fellow citizens, archers for Team Korea are poised to write yet another chapter in Olympic history.
I hope this Olympics becomes a venue where people worldwide can connect and share moments of joy and sorrow together.
이은희, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Seong and this is The World Now. North Korea expert and former CIA analyst Sue Terry has been indicted in the US on charges of working as an unregistered agent of the South Korean government. Terry, who was indicted Wednesday by a New York grand jury on charges of acting as a spy for South Korea in exchange for luxury goods, Michelin star meals and more, was released on a $500,000 bail on the same day. Federal prosecutors in New York charged Terry for failing to register under the U.S. Federal Foreign Agents Registration Act, saying that she did not register despite engaging in extensive activities for and in the direction of South Korean government. While the U.S. State Department said it will not interfere with ongoing cases, it stated that it supports the Department of Justice's decision. Last year, Sue Terry produced a documentary film titled Beyond Utopia about female North Korean defectors, which was nominated for an Emmy Award on Wednesday evening local time. Protesters against government job reforms in Bangladesh clashed again with the police on Wednesday after violence left 6 dead and many injured the day before. Police fired rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse protesters demonstrating against a quota which reserves 30% of public sector jobs for family members of fighters from the 1971 War of Independence from Pakistan. Local media reported that dozens were injured, including at least six journalists, as authorities deployed units of the paramilitary Border Guard Force alongside the riot police. Protesters outside Dhaka University chanted, "We will not let our brothers' blood go in vain." The public sector job quotas have especially angered younger Bangladeshis, with nearly 32 million of them neither in work nor education. Rare images of members of an uncontacted indigenous tribe in the Peruvian Amazon forest were published on Tuesday. The images show dozens of Mashco Piro people on the banks of a river close to logging sites. Survival International said that the photographs were taken at the end of June on the riverbanks of the Madre de Dios region in the southeast Peru near the border with Brazil. Several logging companies hold timber concessions in the area, and one company, Canales Tahuamanu, has reportedly built over 200 kilometers of roads for logging operations. Local indigenous rights group FENAMAD said that the reclusive Mashco Piro tribe, one of the world's most hidden, has been sighted coming out of the rainforest more often to relocate further away from loggers and find food. A fossil of a towering Stegosaurus dinosaur, standing 3.35 meters tall and over 6 meters in length, sold at Sotheby's, New York for $44.6 million on Wednesday, making it the most valuable fossil ever sold at an auction. The sale was also the first time an auction house has been involved in bringing a dinosaur fossil specimen directly to a market from its discovery, as Sotheby closely collaborated with renowned commercial paleontologist Jason Cooper to document the entire process from excavation and restoration to mounting. Stegosaurus lived on the Earth some 150 million years ago during the Jurassic period and are known for their distinctive dermal armor that covers their neck to tail. The Stegosaurus fossil, named Apex, is the largest and most complete set ever to be found.
Good morning. The season's heaviest downpours have been pounding down on the capital area since overnight, dropping 40 to 70 millimeters an hour of heavy rain. Northern parts of Gyeonggi-do were hit the hardest, receiving more than 600 millimeters of showers since yesterday. And rain is forecast to pick up through the mid-afternoon in central regions. And until tomorrow, the capital area and northern parts of Gyeonggi-do could see more than 180 millimeters of rainfall. In Jeollabuk-do province could see 150 millimeters. So heavy rain alerts are in place for west of central regions. It will rain down harder in central areas today. In southern provinces, we'll also see 20 to 30 millimeters an hour of heavy rain. Please stay safe. Jeju and Busan, however, will have a rain-free day. A heat wave warning is in place in the east of Jeju with an expected high of 33 degrees Celsius. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? Welcome. 시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arirang TV is conducting a quality and satisfaction evaluation to enhance the broadcast service for viewers worldwide. Please visit our website www.arirang.com to provide your honest opinions. Participants will be entered into a draw for a chance to win prizes. Overseas TV viewer survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
We are here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Thursday, July 18th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Today we're joined by Cheska Dainha.
Happy Thursday, everyone!
Welcome back. Yay! Happy Thursday! And Brooke Prince.
Hello, nice to be here.
Lovely to have you. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. Starting off, the Danish government has partially lifted its recall decision on Korean food brand Samyang's 불닭, or spicy chicken noodles. Initially, 3 flavors were recalled, but the order has now been scrapped for 2 of them. According to Samyang Foods, the company submitted a rebuttal to the Danish Veterinary and Food Administration, highlighting errors in the administration's capsaicin measurements. Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety also dispatched an on-site response team to Denmark, prompting a reassessment of the products. This decision comes a month after Denmark initially pulled 3 불닭 noodle flavors from shelves, citing concerns over extreme spiciness and potential health risks. Seoul City started accepting applications yesterday from residents interested in hiring housekeepers from the Philippines. 100 housekeepers will participate in a 6-month pilot program beginning in September, offering childcare and household services. These housekeepers have undergone 780 hours of relevant training, are fluent in English, and have a basic proficiency in Korean. Eligible applicants include households with a child aged 12 or younger, or those expecting a baby, with priority given to single-parent households, dual-income families, and households with an expecting mother. This initiative aims to address the low birth rate, offering a cost-effective solution, as the salaries for these housekeepers are lower than current public childcare and housekeeping services. Finally, new data shows that it now takes nearly a year for the younger generation to find employment after graduating. As of May, according to Statistics Korea, it took an average of 11.5 months for wage and salaried workers between 15 and 29 years old in Korea to secure a job after finishing school. This is the longest duration since data started being recorded in 2004. For high school graduates or those with less education, the job search period increased dramatically from 2.8 months to 5.6. Meanwhile, for those with a college degree or higher, the period slightly rose from 8.2 months to 8.3. Several factors contribute to this trend, including companies' preference for experienced workers and the increasing number of students pursuing higher education. So, here in the studio, as part of the younger generation, do you also agree with these reasons?
Well, hearing you talk about it really took me back to the days of trying to find my first job after graduating.
We all have that moment.
Oh, yes. And I remember it being so frustrating because a lot of the jobs would claim to be entry level, but then you'd look a little closer at the requirements and it would say something like requires 1 to 2 years of experience. So you're stuck in this catch-22 of you need experience to get a job, but all of the jobs available to you won't give you that experience. So I'm wondering if maybe that same problem is coming into play here in Korea. But I also think that there's just been sort of a change in the mindset of young Koreans lately, in that they are pursuing more independence rather than what might be considered a more stable lifestyle choice. For example, in the past, people really prioritized getting into a big company or working for the government and immediately going into long office hours and things like that. Whereas these days, I think young people are more focused on trying to pursue their own happiness and freedom. And I think that trend is being reflected not just in these statistics, but also in the low birth rate and the pushing off marriage as well.
And we also talked about the rising number of self-employed, those who run businesses among the younger generation. That could be another effect that we're seeing due to these factors. Now, Cheska, I want to ask you, do you think that there are other factors at play as well?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the points that Brooke mentioned. I think the climate is definitely changing in terms of how our generation is picking and choosing workforces. But I think we discussed here in the news, Jen, the NEET tribe is also increasing. So a lot of the times people are also trying to take on multiple part-time jobs and trying to sustain their living and try to spend their own lives doing what they want to do. And I think another thing is, which is particularly, I think, characteristic of our generation, is that we really like to explore options other than just the traditional workforce. So people are either traveling more or even trying to earn living by vlogging, or even trying to do something that they enjoy and then make a living out of it. So I think they're swaying away from the traditional workforce and trying to find something that better fits their needs and wants.
Right. And talking about NEET tribes, just a sneak peek, we're going to talk about the rising number of NEET tribes here in Korea next week here on NewsGen. So please stay tuned for that too. And that was our news feed for this Thursday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Today we're going to talk about the recent changes to Seoul City's recycling and waste separation policies. Now, we're a show that loves pop quizzes and mini tests, so we're back with our mini tests. It's been quite a while, so I'll give our panel some examples, and please raise the O or X sign depending on whether you think the item is recyclable or not. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's get right into it. So, number 1, snack packaging with crumbs on it. 1, 2, 3. So Cheska chose O, Brooke chose X. Let's listen from Brooke. Why?
Well, because I thought that if there is any kind of food packaging that still has food left in it that's hard for you to remove, then that should go in general waste.
I see. Now, we'll tell you the answer in a short moment. Moving on to our second question, number 2. Plastic bottle labels, are they recyclable? What's your answer? You guys both chose O.
Yes.
Once again, we'll tell you the answer in a moment. And number 3, this may be kind of tricky. Plastic twines. What's your answer? 1, 2, 3. So Cheska chose O, Brooke chose X. Divided answers. Why?
Well, this past weekend, I actually threw a birthday party for my best friend, and I rented out a party room and filled it with balloons and gifts, and there was a lot of ribbon and plastic twine and things like that. So at the end of the party, when I had to clean up, we had to separate all of our trash, and I put the plastic twine and the ribbon and all of that. I put that in general waste. This is a hopeful answer. I'm hoping that I did the right thing. Hopefully, so I guess I'll find out with the answers.
Right, now to the answers. I'm very sorry, Brooke.
No.
These 3 items weren't recyclable until last month. So when did you have that party?
It was on Monday, so I guess I'm so sorry I did it wrong.
Well, it's okay. We are here to learn, so definitely okay. So these items are recyclable starting this month, with the Seoul City government expanding its recycling criteria. Now, Cheska, I noticed that you got all 3 answers right, so congratulations. I think that you are an expert in recycling or waste separation.
Thank you.
So could you please tell us more about Seoul City's updated recycling and waste separation policy?
Absolutely. And just before I start, I also had to study these because, as we will discuss further, the recycling rule in South Korea is very complicated.
Indeed.
So as we have seen in the mini test we just took, Seoul City did expand to include more categories for recycling. So let's take a look at the screen to see the full list. Now, if we take a look at the screen now, as we mentioned, the twine is also included in the list. list, as well as candy and food wrappers, the plastic bottle, the labels, and we go from the 1 to the 12 categories of the things that we didn't know were able to be recycled included in the category.
Right. So as Cheska just mentioned, this is part of Korea's strict recycle and waste disposal regulations, and waste sorting is important as it is indeed the first step in the recycling process because it helps us separate recyclables such as plastics, metals, paper, and glass from non-recyclables. So Brooke, for our international viewers, could you please explain more about some of Korea's key waste separation and recycle policies?
Sure, although I'm not sure I'm qualified after those quiz results, but I will try to share my knowledge from the past 8 years of living here. It's not exactly intuitive. There is a lot to learn. A lot of foreigners, when they come here, they just think, oh, I can use my typical black garbage bag and just throw everything in it, but that is not how it goes in Korea. There are official plastic bags for each district, so you have to buy and use the ones that are exclusive to your neighborhood, and that applies even if you move. So I'm very sorry, but if you buy in bulk a bunch of garbage bags and then you end up moving, you cannot use those same bags in your new residence. As far as which bags you need to buy, there are general waste bags and then food waste bags. Now, the food waste bags I actually think are a great idea because they really help you to visualize how much food you're actually wasting, which I think is hard to do, to actually imagine when you're just throwing everything in one bag. When you have to see it by itself, you really realize, oh, I need to be utilizing my ingredients more efficiently. So I think that's great. Those are the two types of bags mainly. And then for all of your recyclables, you can put them in any plastic bag, or if your apartment complex has designated bins outside, then you can sort your recyclables that way. Now notice I've been talking for quite a while and I still have not scratched the surface of the garbage rules here in Korea. For example, with the food waste bags, you might be able to crack an egg inside of that bag, but you cannot put the egg shell in the bag.
They're the hardest part.
You can throw away your leftover chicken, but if there are bones in it, you cannot do that. If you want to throw away large electronics, you can't just put it outside to be collected. You have to go to your local government office, get a special disposal sticker, make an appointment to have someone come and get it. You get the point. It is very, very complicated and it can be inconvenient and hard to get used to, but it does feel good to be contributing to a reduced carbon footprint here in Korea.
It is indeed. Now, we are talking about the recycling and waste separation policies here in Korea. So back to you, Brooke. How do these rules kind of differ from that of other countries? For example, your home country, the United States.
Well, it was definitely an adjustment, and that's not to say that Americans don't recycle at all, because some of them do. Many households, even in my own family, decide to recycle, but it's not as widespread as it is in Korea, and it's certainly not as strict or as complicated. And that's because we don't have a national law that requires us to recycle. It's decided by the state. And while there are a few states that do mandate recycling, I would say overall as a country, it's more of a moral choice. Whereas here in Korea, it is an obligation.
Yes,
it is a requirement. You can be punished, you can be fined. I have a friend who was sent pictures of the things that she didn't sort correctly and she had to pay a small fine.
That's what I'm scared of every time.
Yes, so the stakes are much higher here in Korea, but it's paid off. Korea has double the recycling rate of my home country of the United States, which I believe Cheska will now elaborate on for us.
Now to you, Cheska. So has Korea's recycling policies been effective? Do we have any stats?
Yeah, you know, in Korea, I think the recycling system started way back in the 1980s, and it was first implemented. And in '95, we adopted the so-called 종량제 system. So simply put, we're putting taxes based on the volume of garbage to actively decrease or limit the number of trash produced. And since then, as Brooke mentioned, Korea has actually been a leader in recycling. As we all know, we have guidelines for not only recycling, but also food disposals as well as recycling metals and electronics and even house furniture. And according to the stats, we rank number 2 with about 62% in recycle rate in the world for recycling, and with number 1 being Germany in the leader. So we're doing pretty well, I suppose.
I know.
And compared to the US and Japan, which lingers around the 30s, I would say it's a pretty high figure. And I believe, given that a lot of other countries try to emulate our system and try to incorporate the kind of recycling system that we have also.
Right. It's kind of good to see that our hard efforts are paying off.
Oh, yeah, I'm really proud, to be honest.
Right. And now, as we mentioned before, we were talking about the recycling and waste separation policies here in Korea. But now to expand our discussion, we also asked our viewers about waste sorting and recycling policies in their countries. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Benny says in the Philippines, some malls are making efforts to separate waste collections by separating the biodegradable and the recyclable waste. Leon says Singapore has a relatively straightforward waste separation system. Most households only need to separate their waste into 2 categories, recyclable waste and general waste. Jesse says in Alabama, there is a container for trash and a separate one for all recycling, but each country and each state handles it differently. So through our comments, we took a look at some recycling and related policies in other parts of the world. Now, bringing our discussion back here in Korea, it's often said that the younger generation, us, we're particularly passionate and adept at waste separation and recycling. So as part of this generation, do you agree? And if you do, why do you think that is?
You know, I've noticed that we have a term called MZECO, which I didn't know until I researched about this topic.
Me too.
Which is a combination of MC with echo. So we are very, very active, and while it is an inherent characteristic of our generation to actively find ways to make the world a better place, I suppose that especially here in Korea, we are actually taught and educated from very early on to recycle.
I remember.
Right? And I think Eugene would remember this. And when we were in kindergarten, I remember we used to have these little juice boxes during lunchtime, and the teachers would tell us, now go, recycle, find the right bin.
Yeah, and put your food waste specifically here.
Exactly. And then
Never had that experience.
Didn't mean to isolate you, but I felt like it was something.
That's very interesting.
And then as you go up in school, you also get tested on how to recycle.
Wow.
And you actually study these in your topics. So I think education definitely plays a big part. But I think environment also plays a very crucial part in that, as Brooke, you mentioned, in every apartment, every offices, like every house that we go to, they have a designated spot for recycling.
Right.
And even warning signs for being penalized and CCTV cameras that say if you don't recycle,
you'll be fined.
You'll be fine, you'll be tracked. So I think all of these combined, both education and the environment, and even the morals that people have, I think really fosters this environment to know that recycling and saving the environment is actually very important.
And related to this, I think we recently talked about that report that researched millennials and Gen Zs in Korea that showed that the top 2 concerns of millennials and Gen Zs were actually climate change. So this may be another reason why our generation is so passionate about waste separation. And as related laws and policies become stricter, I've heard that there are new unique services that help people dispose their garbage properly, right, Brooke?
That's right. So I did some research on this, and although I have not witnessed one of them myself, I've heard that there are these new smart waste separation machines that are being installed all over Seoul. And the idea is to turn your trash into cash. So all you have to do is scan a QR code using a waste separation collection app, and then you insert your trash, whether that be a can, a bottle, a paper package like a juice package, something like that, and then you can earn points.
Ooh,
and those points will turn into cash. So they're hoping that by doing this, of course, people love money. They're very incentivized by that. They're hoping that they can encourage people to recycle more actively. And also, coming off of what we were talking about earlier, how you guys grew up learning about these things, they are actually installing these machines in schools. So that is to hopefully teach our next generation to also be mindful about the environment, kind of make it fun for them. Recycling is more of a fun, exciting thing with these new robots that are helping you to recycle. And that can really get them started at an early age, developing these good habits.
Right. So to find out how much passionate Korean millennials and Gen Z are into recycling and properly disposing their waste, we're now going to invite a Korean Gen Z into our talks right after the break. Right, so today we're joined by Jung Ji-hye, a Korean Gen Z. Welcome, Jia, to the show.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So we heard that, Jie, you are very keen on recycling. So as we mentioned earlier in our talks, the first step to recycling is sorting waste. So I want to ask you, do you consider yourself good at separating waste properly?
Firstly, thank you for noticing. I'm just trying my best to be diligent about recycling and sorting waste properly. It's still definitely an ongoing process for me, but I make a conscious effort to separate materials like paper, plastic, and glass to the best of my ability. I believe every little effort helps the environment better.
You know, that's so impressive because as we discussed here in the studio, it's a very complicated process. So why do you think properly separating or sorting waste is actually very important?
I believe it's very important for protecting the natural environment. Like when the recyclable materials are sorted well, this can be reused in manufacturing processes to create new products. It means we reduce resource consumption and at the same time minimize environmental pollution from waste disposal. Like how amazing if we separate waste properly, like our garbage can become new resources.
Well,
also,
it's great. Continue, keep going.
Okay, sorry. So as a Korean, in Korean society, it is common practice for everyone to sort and separate waste.
Yes.
So this not only benefits the environment, but also reflects our commitment to following guidelines and being responsible citizen.
It's definitely great to see your enthusiasm. I do have one last question for you. Do you have any tips for properly separating waste, or in other words, finding out what you can or cannot recycle? Because obviously people like me do need help with being educated and learning all of the tips that we can.
Right, certainly. I'm not an expert, but I've learned a few helpful tips for properly separating and waste over time. And it's very simple. The first one is take note, and second is organize, and third one is keep checking. So recycling can seem very difficult at first, like figuring out whether potato peels go on food waste and onion peels and eggshell in general waste, as you talked before. And to make it easier and get used to, I normally created a printed chart and put it up in my kitchen. So this way I know where my waste should go. Wow. And for anything I'm unsure about, I use the internet to research, of course. It's been a learning process. But these steps have definitely made a difference, how manage recycling at home. Also, I have one another thing, like having a separate label boxes for general waste, paper, plastic, and others on your balcony. It would be very helpful. Like using label boxes is convenient and organized to sort your waste properly.
So very inspiring.
By following these tips, yes, we all can contribute to more effective recycling, I believe.
Indeed, we can. Thank you for your advice today, Jie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so the reason why we brought up this issue today, because waste management is a global issue with over 2 billion tons produced annually. So last but not least, what kind of strategies do you think that we can implement to kind of improve proper recycling and waste separation?
I mean, very quickly, I think we really need to adopt the mindset of Jie. I mean, the kind of commitment and the responsibility.
So passionate.
Yeah, and the enthusiasm she has for recycling because she knows how her actions would affect. I think that's the kind of mindset that we need, so that whatever strategy that we get, we're able to execute it properly. Yeah.
Right. So number one, a good mindset, and number two, Brooke.
Totally agree with that. Loved her energy. But for the people that maybe don't have that natural passion for it, a lot of humans are creatures of habit. We prefer convenience and ease. So I think making the recycling process as streamlined as possible will increase those recycling rates. And also just remember that all of your efforts matter. Every single individual person, what you do matters. It counts. Every little bit counts.
Right. Your effort does matter, everyone who's watching our episode today. And that's all from us today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Cheska Nainha.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
And Brooke Prince.
Thank you. Learned a lot.
Thank you. And before we go, a quick reminder that Arirang TV is conducting a program survey, including NewsGen, in order to meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at our official website or mobile app Arirang TV for your valuable valuable feedback and take part in a chance to receive Bluetooth earbuds and K-pop merch. Once again, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are
News Generation.
Welcome